Thank you, Paula, for such a warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Sustainable Development Committee and the rest of the UNA-NCA chapter, I'd like to personally welcome all of you to the United States Capitol to discuss such an important issue. The Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs, with Congressman Beyer and Mr. George Ingram from the Brookings Institution. My name is Thomas Liu, and I'm a rising senior at Langley High School located in McLean, Virginia, a proud member of the UNA-NCA Sustainable Development Committee, and above all, the event lead for today's program. Before I start, I'd like to thank my parents, York Liu and Jennifer Huang, for encouraging and guiding me to become the person who I am today. And to all the dads out here today, happy Taiwanese Father's Day. I'd also like to thank an individual for whom, if I do not know, I wouldn't have the courage and ability to organize this event. And that individual is no one other than Mr. Edward Elmendorf. Mr. Elmendorf was the former president of UNA-NCA and UNA-USA. I'd like to thank him for his support over the past year for me. Unfortunately, Mr. Elmendorf can't be here today. I met Mr. Elmendorf at the 2016 UNA-USA Leadership Summit, where he held a Global Goals Roundtable discussion on Goal 17, Partnership of the Goals. Mr. Elmendorf then went on to secure my position as a committee member of UNA-NCA, because since it's rare for high school students to join such a prestigious organization. He also recommended me to join the Sustainable Development Committee, which is chaired by Mr. Patrick Real-Liza, who is actively leading and facilitating the development of programs on behalf of our committee. By following Mr. Elmendorf's insight, I had the opportunity to learn more about the SDGs and be here today to advocate on behalf of the SDGs. As a quick reminder for those present in the room, as Paula said, we're currently live on national television, thanks to C-SPAN and their team's effort for broadcasting today's event. We are also streaming through Nexus Media Live to help encourage and engage our online support audiences. Please be sure to follow at UNA-NCA and at UNA-NCA Sustainable Development throughout the afternoon on Twitter. After the panel, we'll be taking questions from our audience member over here and also through the online media platform. Today's hashtags are hashtag Go13, hashtag Climate Action, and most importantly, hashtag Congress and SDGs. On this afternoon, we're gathered here to talk about Goal 13 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, which is climate action. According to the UN, climate change presents the single biggest threat to development, and its widespread, unprecedented effects disproportionately burden the poorest and the most vulnerable. In April of 2016, under the US's leadership, member states of the United Nations signed the historic Paris Climate Agreement, an agreement that set the stage for such an ambitious climate change agenda. However, things have changed. Since President Trump decided to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement on June 1st, it is imperative for American leaders such as Congressman Beyer, to reaffirm the leadership role that the United States have to play, the United States must play on the international stage, and especially on issues such as climate change. Congressman Beyer isn't only my role model, he's America's strongest member of Congress fighting against global climate change. I first met Congressman Beyer as a volunteer for his campaign 3 years ago when he encouraged me to stay involved in not only policy, but also politics. And then I went on to serve as a campaign intern during his re-election campaign. Before being elected to Virginia's 8th Congressional District in 2014, Congressman Beyer served as a 2-term Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the President of Virginia's State Senate, and most importantly, the Ambassador to Switzerland and Liechtenstein under President Obama. Before inviting Congressman Beyer up to deliver the speech, let me briefly say that after the Congressman's speech will be followed by a conversation between Congressman Beyer and Mr. George Ingram. Mr. Ingram serves as the Chair Emeritus of the U.S. Global Leadership Coalition, and he's also a Senior Fellow for Global Economy and Development at the Brookings Institution. We are pleased to have Congressman Beyer here today to be the first member of Congress to speak about the U.S.'s role and the importance of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Congressman Beyer will also provide a lawmaker's perspective on the need for a strong U.S. leadership in the United Nations, and most importantly, on Goal 13, climate action. With that, it's my great honor and privilege to welcome the Vice-Ranking Member of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, a champion of UNA-NCA, and my mentor, Congressman Beyer.